I'm no expert. We're here to talk about the fight that just happened this past Saturday between Manny Pacquiao Pac-Man and Yordenis Ugas. Now, if anybody saw the fight or knows the results of the fight, then as you know, Pacquiao lost on the decision, unanimous decision, and nobody should have any complaints. There was nothing controversial about it. And at this point, I think Manny Pacquiao should probably just hang it up, walk away, and continue with his political career that he has in the Philippines, as well as the philanthropic work that he does. He's a man of his people. He's a fan favorite in the sport of boxing, and he's pretty much recognized around the world. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's a phenomenal fighter. He seems to be a phenomenal human being, and he just got beat by the younger, better man on Saturday night. Now, Yordenis Ugas is a sort of underrated fighter, an overlooked fighter. His most notable fight in the welterweight division was actually a loss to Sean Porter. That was Porter's fight right before he fought Errol Spence. As we all know, Errol Spence was supposed to be the opponent that Pacquiao was going to fight this past Saturday, and he suffered a detached retina, which he had to have surgery for, and Yordenis Ugas was the late step-in, the late fill-in. Now, Pacquiao could have said, hey, this is a late switch. I need more time to game plan for a different fighter. He could have pulled out of the fight. Nobody would have blamed him for that. I mean, if you fight Errol Spence Jr., arguably the best fighter in his division, one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in boxing, the fact that he was willing to step up and fight him was a big deal to begin with, being that Manny Pacquiao's 42 years old, which is definitely old in the sport of boxing, and in any sport for that matter. And, there he was willing to fight the best, which is one of the reasons why we love him so much. In his last few fights alone, his last fight, which was in 2020, he beat Keith Thurman. He also beat Adrian Broner. The fight before that, he beat Lucas Matisse. And, those were his three fights after his controversial loss to Jeff Horn in Horn's home country of Australia. So throughout his career, he's always fought the best. He's had some classic, memorable fights, trilogies with the best fighters in whatever division he's been in. He's had a career that spanned, 25 years. He's fought everybody there has been to fight. And at this stage in the game, he could just be fighting people that he knows he could beat, or, YouTube stars, and making tons and tons of money. But instead, he's choosing to fight the best fighters in his division, going for actual championships, fighting relevant fighters who are good and competitive and younger than him and have all the physical advantages and advantages in age and stuff like that. Now, Ugas is 7 years younger. He's 35, which isn't a very young fighter, but his professional career, is relatively brief in comparison to Pacquiao's. Pacquiao has a lot more wear and tear on him, and Father Time is undefeated, as we all know. So at this point, Pacquiao would have no shame to walk away and retire. He's got nothing left to prove. I'm sure he could find somebody out there that he could be competitive against in his division, someone with a relatively decent ranking. I'm sure there's people out there that would like to have a rematch with him, or like to have the name recognition of a guy like Manny Pacquiao on their resume. No, he didn't look bad, but he just didn't look great. And not to take anything away from Ugas, but he did fight an aged Pacquiao. That doesn't matter. He won the fight. He was more accurate. His power punches were more effective, and that's just what it came down to. Manny Pacquiao threw almost 800 punches or something like that. And he still landed less punches than Ugas, who threw about half as many punches as Pacquiao. It was a good fight, good action fight. They both went at it. Manny Pacquiao did not sit back and rest on his laurels and try to win based on his name and his rep alone. He actually went out there to fight. He was in it. He was throwing combinations. Anytime he got hit with something, he was trying to answer back with flurries. But Ugas just had a better jab that controlled the pace, controlled the range, and his right hands and his hooks were more powerful and more effective. But hats off to Manny Pacquiao. He's a great champion. And if he walks away now, he will keep his dignity, and he will be considered as someone who walked away at the right time, even though he could have retired years ago and still had, the respect and the recognition and everything that comes along with being a champion. I think Manny Pacquiao is going to be considered a champion no matter what in the eyes of most people that watch boxing, and he just carries himself like a gentleman and a true ambassador of the sport. And hopefully he just knows that it's time to walk away. And hats off to Yordenis Ugas for fighting a smart fight, a tactical fight. And maybe he's in line for Errol Spence or somebody, maybe a rematch with Sean Porter or one of those top welterweights. So we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. Until then, I'm no expert. I just call it how I see it. You know.